A series of shootings happens this weekend in a number of places that have the strictest gun laws in the country. One of which comes under very, very, very mysterious circumstances, and we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that and the reaction of people who are pointing out that this has happened under, quote, very, very, very mysterious circumstances. So we'll go over all three of those, and that'll probably be the almost extent of the top half of the show. In other news, Finland and Sweden are working on joining Nato with a surprisingly calm reaction from Vladimir Putin. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. Unsuspecting men don't know that overturning Roe v. Wade will affect their lifestyles, according to an opinion piece from MSN that we'll talk about as we go over everything. And Netflix makes a bold move against cancel culture and wokeism, telling their woke employees to back down. We'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. Strap yourselves in. This is going to be a long one, folks, because we have got a lot. It is going to be all this and more, though. You're just mad you can't date me. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. What a weekend, as the country is now completely focused on what seems to have happened in my home state, Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, in Buffalo, New York, and in California. That seems to be the big focus on what's happening here. And, I mean, there's not a lot of focus on what happened in Milwaukee. I would almost hazard a guess to say that we may never hear. I mean, this may be the last time you hear about something that happened, or what happened in Milwaukee over the weekend. I would hazard a guess to say that that's probably going to be it. But we are going to talk about that because, well, it's important, and it's important to the narrative too. We'll talk about that when we discuss how the Buffalo shooting was covered in the news. So there's going to be that. But I had a show planned to do once we got off the air on Friday, and then what happened on Friday night just kind of kicked that out the road. And then what happened on Saturday night, which I didn't get into till late. I went out with some friends, and we did some clay shooting on Saturday while this was allegedly all happening. So, and I didn't go right back to the news when I got home on Saturday in the afternoon. I kind of did some stuff around the house and did some cleaning, and because it did get bad over the past couple weeks. I've been really, really busy the past couple weeks. So, I sat down on Saturday night late, maybe 7, 8 o'clock, and was completely shocked by all the news that was suddenly pouring in. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk a lot about that one, because I have a lot of questions about that one. That one just ticks all the tinfoil sensors in my head. But we'll go over that. We'll go over some of the remaining abortion news, even though that's going to be going out the window here. Some of the Ukraine news and what's going on with that. We've got a lot of stuff. We've got some video of some of the protests here, because they're going to keep trying to do the protests. And even some commie fucking coof news, because that's apparently going to be back over here on Contemporary. But before we get started, head on over and check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. turnsofpagesproductions.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. Once we get started, we will be carrying great shows such as the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, the Porch Boys. Our friend Britt will be joining the network in whatever iteration that she has, and a new show will be joining us there, so go check us out. It'll be a great network and a great time with our one dream to bring you a better news experience, and a news experience that's curated by people who are just like you, people who've had to make some of the same decisions that you've had to make throughout life. That has been my dream, to get people away from watching news that's delivered to them by people in suits that cost more than their houses, and get news to people from people who are just like them. So come and check us out. And if you want to help us with that dream, go check out givesendgo.com/TurnsOfPages101 to go and give a hand to us. We are looking to have a $2,000 initial investment to get started here. And that is basically to make sure that our friend Bobby Joe gets paid, because we like Bobby Joe around here. So go and check that out, both TurnsOfPagesProductions.com and givesendgo.com/TurnsOfPages101, and see what you can do to help bring a better news service to the people of this country. Let's look into the finance for the morning. The Dow on Friday jumped up 466 points, the first day in a week where the Dow Jones went up. In fact, as I said on Friday, what happens if the Dow happens to hit a new 52-week low every day in the week? Now, looking at this and looking at what the Investors Business Daily has to say, I am starting to wonder if we're going to have another week of that with a Hong Kong rise on Friday, but we'll see what happens with that. But yes, 466 points up, or 1.47% up on the Dow, a slight recovery. And for all the losses that they're doing, they're staying in a very, very, very narrow window, like hovering right around the 31,000, high of 31,000, low 32,000 range. So we'll see what happens with that and where that goes on your Bitcoin. Across the last 5 days of Bitcoin, you've seen a rise, a fall, a major fall down to 26,000. And then over the weekend, kind of a steady with a big rise and then a drop once again, dropping back to $29,789 and 20 US cents per Bitcoin. That is over the 5-day up $799, and over the 3 days over the weekend, about steady to where it was when we last saw it on Friday. Looking in at the gas, because that's going to be some good news. The low price leader in the Madison area is all the way out in Lodi at this point, which if you're driving 15 miles to go get gas, you're defeating the purpose of going to save a few cents. But the Shell in Lodi is at $4 even. The Mobil in Lodi is at $4.02. The Citgo in Portage is at $4.05, along with the Quick Trip there. This is all well to the north here, but once we get into the actual Madison area, the Costco in Sunbury is at $4.07. The Quick Trip in Madison proper is at $4.08. And the other Quick Trip in Madison proper on Buckeye is also at $4.08. I didn't know there was one on Buckeye. Oh, I suppose because they switched everything out from being a PDQ, yeah. So, $4 to $4.08 around the Madison area. Your gas prices may vary because this is specific to the Madison area. Go check your local gas buddy to see where it is your low price leaders are. But this is an indicator that, yes, it's still going up around here. All right, let's see what IBD has to say. Dow Futures fall, market rally underway, but wait for this signal from Ed Carson. Dow Futures and S&P 500 Futures fell slightly Monday morning, while NASDAQ Futures retreated modestly. A new stock market rally attempt got underway late last week, closing off lows on Thursday and surging higher on Friday, but the major indices still fell sharply for the week. Shanghai will be opening up for supermarkets and other physical stores in phases starting on Monday as Pinko-Pox continues to fall. Hopes for an end to China's lockdowns helped buoy markets on Friday, but Chinese economic data released Monday was weaker than expected. Investors should wait and see if the market rally continues to build momentum and stages a follow-through day to confirm the new uptrend. Chevron and fertilizer leaders CF Industries are around early entries, while Albemarle and Broadcom have little more work to do. Merck didn't participate in Friday's relief rally, but closed up for the week in a buy zone. Meanwhile, Tesla stock and Twitter will remain in focus. Tesla rebounded on Friday, but still had a tough week. Twitter sold off last week, especially on Friday, as Tesla CEO Elon Musk says the deal was temporarily on hold. Which, by the way, do I have the tweet thread over here? Do I have it waiting for KTZed redemption? Oh yeah, I have it waiting in the wings for KTZed redemption, but Elon tweeted out I think it was last night, that anybody who thinks that it's easy to own the libs has never tried to buy a social media company. I thought that was kind of funny. Merck and CF are on swing traders. CF and AVGO are on the IBD 50. CF, Merck, and CVX are on the IBD Big Cap 20. CF Industries was Friday's IBD stock of the day. In other news, McDonald's will sell its Russian operations after previously suspending them due to Russia's Ukraine invasion. JetBlue launched a hostile bid of $30 a share for Spirit Airlines, with the possibility of a $33 via a friendly deal. Spirit Air, which is accepted a takeover by rival ultra-low-cost carrier Frontier for $21.66 in cash, and stock rejected a recent JetBlue offer, citing the low odds that it would pass regulatory muster. Spirit Airlines leapt 15% to above 19. On the futures, Dow dropped 0.1% versus fair value, S&P dropped 0.3%, and NASDAQ lost 0.5%. The 10-year Treasury yield dipped to 2.92. Crude oil prices fell slightly. China's April retail sales plunged 11.1% versus a year earlier, nearly twice as bad as economists expected. Industrial production fell 2.9% versus views for a slight decline. And remember, overnight action in Dow Futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that's what we see out of there. Let's grab one briefly from CNBC, and, well, let's start talking about the depressing news, because this is not going to be an easy segment once we get out of here. Dow Futures falls slightly on Monday following 7 straight weeks of losses. From Tanaya Makil and Abigail Ng. Stock futures fell on Monday as the market attempted to rebound from a relentless sell-off that's punished tech stocks and pushed the S&P 500 to the brink of a bear market. Futures tied to the Dow slipped by 32 points. S&P 500 futures fell 0.3 after the benchmark nearly fell into a bear market last week before a Friday rebound. NASDAQ was down 0.4%. Monday's losses came after a comeback attempt on Friday where the Dow rose 466 points, the S&P climbed 2.39%, and the NASDAQ jumped 3.82% and posted its strongest one-day gain since November of 2020. But major averages still posted steep losses for the week. The Dow's losing streak is its worst since 2001. The S&P is on its first 6-week losing streak since June of 2011. Given the history of bear markets, coupled with the fact that the Fed has just begun its rate hike cycle and would like to see financial conditions continue to tighten so that demand pulls back further, Friday's rally will most likely weaken, said Quincy Crosby, chief equity strategist for LPL Financial. The S&P sits 16% off its record high, while the NASDAQ is down more than 27%, as investors hit growth stocks trading with lofty valuations, the hardest hit as interest rates spiked. So, it looks like they're trying to tell you that it's going to be a slow recovery coming back up this week. I think it's still going to drop throughout the week. I don't think it's going to drop as fast as it did last week. I don't think we're going to hit record lows every day this week either. But I think it's still going to drop slightly. We'll see what happens and where this goes. I guess let's do it in chronological order. Starting with Fox 6, Milwaukee. Shooting after Bucks Celtics game, 3 wounded, man in custody from Cassidy Williams, Madeline O'Neill, and Fox 6 digital team. Let's listen to them first.
Fired on Old World 3rd Street, that's right outside the Deer District. We've got team coverage. Our Madeline O'Neill and Cassidy Williams are both live downtown tonight. Cassidy Williams, you were live in the Deer District. What can you tell us?
Well, we were live just kind of right up in the VIP section, right by the screen. And we were just interviewing fans about, the disappointment. And we watched our GoPro video that was up mounted on a ladder and just saw people sprinting. And then shortly after we had just finished up a live interview, one of the Bucks people that had been working security, who'd been helping us all night, came over and said, I should probably let you guys know you need to get to a safe place. There may be an active shooter in Deer District. Things tend to have calmed down, but that is why we now came. Punch Bowl Social welcomed us onto their balcony so that we could be safe. And from this vantage point, you can see that crime scene tape is now blocking off Highland. You can see a number of police officers back on Old World 3rd there. We are still working to confirm exactly what happened. I talked to some people who came out of Pfizer, who talked about they just walked out and all of a sudden saw people just dropping to the ground, people running, they didn't know what happened. But this all happened really right as the game was ending. So still a lot of questions about what happened. And I know I can only speak from what I saw from my vantage point of security tonight, but I know we were in the VIP section, and that section was being guarded pretty much by a Bucks Grand dancer. Those are the dancers that are 55 plus there to cheer on the ground. And today they were almost working as bouncers to keep people out of the VIP section. We saw several fights break out before the end of the game. We will ask Bucks organization those questions, as there will be a Game 7 on Sunday, and probably thousands of more people in the Deer District. We will continue to follow this and bring you updates as we get them both on air and online. Live from the Deer District, Cassidy Williams, Fox 6 News.
Cassie, quick question here, because there are
So, I'm actually familiar with this area. I went to a tech school that's pretty much right around the corner from there briefly, basically till I ran out of money, because I paid cash for that particular stint. I know this area. I know this area fairly well. One of the things to note, and this is one of the things that's gone through like a Discord server, and the conversations, now, I have no doubt, given where the proximity to where this was, that this was gang violence related, just like what we saw in Sacramento last month. But there are people out there that are trying to say that, oh, well, this is just another big shooting that happened in a black neighborhood. Well, that's really not true. This is actually adjacent to a black neighborhood, but this is not, I mean, this, I didn't realize it until, because I know where the Deer District is. I didn't realize it immediately, but I looked further into this, and this is, what happened here was closer to the gentrified area. But regardless, this is probably going to be swept under the rug fairly quickly. Reading from Fox 6, Milwaukee police are investigating a shooting in which 3 people were wounded near Martin Luther King and Highland around 9:15 p.m. This is just outside Milwaukee's Deer District. The victims were a 29-year-old male, a 16-year-old female, and a 26-year-old male. The 19-year-old male is taken into custody in connection with this incident. Charges are pending review by the Milwaukee County DA's office. Fox 6 News at the scene saw police and paramedic personnel near Dr. Martin Luther King Drive in Highland. 2 hours after the incident, 17 people were shot in Milwaukee's Water Street Bar District. We walked to the Punch Bowl and everyone started running, said Brittany Bergstrom. There was a stampede, people running over the shrubs, hats, shoes on the ground, drinks spilled everywhere. While there was security for the Deer District, which had a capacity limit set, people reportedly ran over the gates to get in once capacity was reached. Presumably, none of these people went through the metal detectors. As the fourth quarter of the game wound down, people began to swarm the exits had opened. A number of fights were broken up before the reported shooting would have happened as the game ended. The VIP section of the Deer District was being guarded by the Bucks Grand dancers, one member telling Fox 6 they were trying to cut through the security gate. So, not a lot of word with this, but there are a couple things that go with this as well. Now, the note that I want to get, and we'll talk about this when we talk about how the Buffalo shooting was reported, is remember the fact that with where this was, and given the fact that this is outside of a basketball game, keep in mind they're saying charges are pending. And no name given, by the way, either. Victim's name's not given either, but no name on the suspect given. In spite of the fact that they have a suspect in custody. So there is that, and we'll grab another one from WISN 12 out of Madison. Bucks Game 7 Deer District watch party canceled after mass shooting. So a little bit of the aftermath. The Deer District will not be hosting a watch party for the Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals versus the Celtics. The watch party was set to take place on May 15th, with the game tipping off at 2:30 p.m. The team released an official statement on Saturday. The shootings that happened in downtown Milwaukee last night were horrific, and we condemn this devastating violence. We are grateful to local law enforcement for its valiant efforts to try to contain what was a dangerous and fluid situation. While these incidences took place outside the Deer District property, it was clearly resonating with fans coming out of the arena and leaving the plaza. Security, health, and welfare are always our top priorities for our guests and employees, and we appreciate the hard work our security team to keep our fans safe. In order to allow law enforcement to devote needed resources to the continued investigation of last night's events, we have decided to cancel tomorrow's planned watch party on the plaza. Deer District business will remain open as usual. We continue to work with the Milwaukee Police Department and other public safety partners to provide a safe and welcoming environment for our fans. We plan to have further details soon. Cavalier Johnson has imposed a 2-night curfew in an area between Belle R. Phillips and North Broadway. Friday night, there was a capacity crowd of 11,000 people in the Deer District. Actually, there were a lot more than that, according to the report that we just saw from Fox 6. So, that's where we go with that, and yeah, I mean, the night after something like that, now, because I don't watch basketball, as far as I understand, given when this happened and when this was supposed to be going on, this was supposed to be that Game 6 was in Milwaukee, and then they were supposed to be traveling out to Boston for Game 7. That's why we're having the watch party, which that's probably a good thing to be canceled for, because I mean, you don't want to have that many people crammed into the same area like fish in a barrel to go back again. A little bit more from the Daily Wire on this one. Downtown Milwaukee curfew imposed. Bucks cancel Game 7 watch party due to string of shootings on Friday. From Tim Meads. The Bucks have canceled Sunday's watch party in downtown Milwaukee for Game 7 against the Celtics in the NBA playoffs due to a string of shootings in the city Friday that left many injured. The mayor of Milwaukee also imposed 11 p.m. curfew for parts of the city. On Friday, the Celtics defeated the Bucks in Milwaukee to force Game 7. During the game, the Bucks held a watch party for 11,000 fans in what's known as the Deer District, an area located near the stadium in downtown Milwaukee. So, I'm going to have to go correct myself, because it sounds like they weren't actually in Milwaukee. Like, the Bucks themselves weren't actually in Milwaukee, according to this. Again, I will feign ignorance, because I don't watch basketball, NBA basketball. However, the shootings broke out that dispersed the crowd after the game. To help local authorities, the Bucks announced that the Game 7 watch party has been canceled. In order to allow law enforcement to devote needed resources to the continued investigation of last night's events, we have decided to cancel tomorrow's planned watch party on the plaza. Deer District businesses will remain open as usual, the Bucks said in a statement. We continue to work with the Milwaukee Police Department and other public safety partners to provide a safe and welcoming environment for our fans. We plan to have further details soon. So, we're up now to 11 suspects in custody, and all victims are expected to survive. Cavalier Johnson imposed a curfew for parts of downtown, both Saturday and Sunday, that going into effect at 11 p.m., USA Today added. Bill Reineman, a parking lot attendant near Fiserv Forum, told Fox 6 that he was supportive of the decision to cancel the watch party. Yeah, I can't imagine why you would want to have another one in the exact same place where all this happened. It pains me to see people suffering as a result of people's stupidity, basically, Reineman told local media. Actually kind of glad that at least the idea has been tabled for right now. Reineman also said hundreds of people fled the scene on Friday night. Multiple people came and leaned on one of the fencing panels and collapsed it, and probably about 200 or 300 people rushed in, Reineman explained. Jamie Kennedy was at a nearby bar in Milwaukee on Friday night, and she said the event was pretty scary. I'm sure there's a lot of disappointed fans that it isn't happening, But at the same point, I understand from a safety standpoint, Kennedy said of the canceled watch party. In less than 12 hours on Friday, Milwaukee police responded to shootings that killed 3 and left 25 injured. So that's what we see coming off of that. That's out of Milwaukee on Friday night. And on Saturday in the afternoon, from the Associated Press to start with. 10 dead in Buffalo supermarket attack, police call hate crime. From Carolyn Thompson, John Wabro, Michael Balsamo, and Dave Collins. We can already see the difference in reporting right at the top paragraph. A white 18-year-old wearing military gear and live streaming with a helmet cam opened fire with a rifle at a supermarket in Buffalo, killing 10 people and wounding 3 others Saturday night in what authorities described as a racially motivated violent extremism. Police said he shot 11 black and 2 white victims before surrendering to authorities in a rampage he broadcast live on the streaming platform Twitch. I have seen the video and it's horrifying. And possibly the best and possibly, now obviously, for obvious reasons, even if I could, I would not be showing the video on YouTube. Or Twitch for that matter, because it's blatantly obvious that this video violates the TOS. So we're not even going to try to do it, for obvious reasons, but the only reason I have seen it is that somebody reposted it in one of the channels in the Porch Boys Discord server, actually. And the preview is still up in that Discord server. Now, if you try to follow the link to the video hosting site has shut it down, but the preview is still there. And it is horrifying. Later, he appeared before a judge in a paper medical gown and was arraigned on a murder charge. It is my sincere hope that this individual, this white supremacist who just perpetrated a hate crime on an innocent community, will spend the rest of his days behind bars, and heaven help him that the next world is well, said Kathy Hochul, speaking near the scene of the attack. So let's just look at this for a half a second. Let's go back to Fox 6. What did we hear about the perpetrator here? A 19-year-old male is taken into custody in connection with this incident. Charges are pending review by the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office. Versus, he shot 11 black and 2 white victims. He appeared before a judge and arraigned on a murder charge. The massacre sent a shockwave through the unsettled nation, gripped with racial tensions, gun violence, and a spate of hate crimes. In the day prior to the shooting, Dallas police said they were investigating a series of shootings in Koreatown as hate crimes. The Buffalo attack came just a month after another mass shooting on a Brooklyn subway train that wounded 10 people, honk honk, killed nobody, honk honk, and was totally honk honk perpetrated by a honk honk black supremacist. The suspected gunman in Saturday's attack on Tops Friendly Market was identified as Peyton Gendron, there we go, of Conklin, New York, about 200 miles southeast of Buffalo. So, name, age, motive, race, and charges versus 19-year-old male taken into custody. Charges pending review by the Milwaukee DA's office. It wasn't immediately clear why Peyton traveled to Buffalo and that particular grocery store. A clip, apparently from his Twitch feed, posted on social media, showed Gendron arriving at the supermarket in his car. The gunman shot 4 people outside the store, 3 fatally, said Buffalo Police Commissioner Joseph Gramaglia. Inside the store, security guard Aaron Stalter, a retired Buffalo police officer, fired multiple shots. A bullet hit the gunman's bulletproof armor, but had no effect, Gramaglia said. The gunman then killed the guard, the commissioner said, then stalked through the store shooting other victims. Police entered the store and confronted the gunman in the vestibule. He put his rifle on his own neck. But two other officers talked him into dropping the gun, Gramaglia said. This is the worst nightmare any community can face. We are hurting. We are seething right now, Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown said in the news conference. The depth of pain and the families are feeling, and that all of us are feeling right now, cannot ever be explained. Twitch said in a statement that it ended Gendron's transmission less than 2 minutes after the violence started. It was 1 minute and 4 seconds, by the way. And I've seen it. It's horrifying. Like, the first victim was dead before she hit the ground. In just a brief description of what I saw from the video. Gunman gets out of his car. He is apparently wearing some sort of glasses-mounted camera because it looked as cringy as a first-person shooter. I almost didn't believe the footage was real when I saw it. But he gets out of a Ford Taurus, grabs his rifle, and pulls up, and shoots a clerk of some kind, middle-aged white woman in a black apron and blue shirt, and she falls to the ground, dead before she hit the ground, and then opens fire on 3 other people inside the door, or just outside the door, rather, goes in, turns a corner, shoots a number of other people, comes back, turns back around, headshots another person who's already incapacitated, and then goes up, points a gun at one of the cashiers who's white, and then apologizes to the guy for scaring him. And that's where the feed cut. A law enforcement official told the Associated Press that investigators are looking into whether he had posted a manifesto online. He has. I've read it. The official was not permitted to speak publicly on the matter and did so on the condition of anonymity. Buffalo police declined to comment on the document circulated widely online that purports to outline the attacker's racist, anti-immigrant, and anti-Semitic beliefs, including a desire to drive people not of European descent from the U.S. It said he drew inspiration from the man who killed 51 people at 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand in 2019. It's not only that he drew inspiration from the Christchurch Manifesto, he literally copy and pasted the Christchurch Manifesto. Which, by the way, I have read front to back. Again, I'm not going to put that on the screen for you guys, because I don't know how that will jive with either Twitch or YouTube TOS. I don't think DLive gives a flying fuck. But it is in the Discord. Thank you to Putz, by the way, for reposting it in the Discord. It's 180 pages, but only about 14 are the actual manifesto of the attack. The rest of it is copy-pasted racist, anti-Semitic memes from 4chan and stuff that he copy and pasted from Poll. There are only about 14 pages of actual content, and there are 70 pages of just tactical instructions. This whole thing, by the way, reads well more once you get past the first 14 pages, like an FBI incident report, which is part of the reason that I have questions. Because the whole thing just reads like an FBI incident report. This is the weapon, this is why he did it, this is what he did, this is why he used this weapon, this is why he would have used this backup weapon, this is why he chose this particular armor. It's an entire technical document. After coming off probably about 35 pages of the rantings of a madman and the copy-pastings of a madman, this whole thing left a lot more questions in my mind. At the earlier news briefing, Erie County Sheriff John Garcia purportedly called the shooting a hate crime. Well, that's interesting, because we have motivation age, name, and charges versus a 19-year-old male was taken into custody in connection, charges are pending, or even going over to the Daily Wire. 11 people in custody in connection. Buffalo police declined to comment on the document. Oh, we read that part already. This was pure evil. It was a straight-up racially motivated hate crime from somebody outside of our community, outside the city of good neighbors, coming into our community and trying to inflict that evil upon us, Garcia said. Among the dead was Ruth Whitfield, the 86-year-old mother of a retired Buffalo Fire Commissioner. My mother was a mother to the motherless. She was blessed to all of us, former Fire Commissioner Garnell Whitfield told the Buffalo News. Witnesses Braden Keppert and Shane Hill of Bolt 20 pulled in the parking lot just as the shooter was exiting. He was standing there with a gun to his chin. We were like, what the heck is going on? What does this kid have a gun to his face? Keppert said. He dropped to his knees. He ripped off his helmet, dropped his gun, and was tackled by police. Officials say the rifle Gendron used in the attack was purchased legally, but that the magazines he used for ammo were not allowed to be sold in New York. That was pointed out in the manifesto. President Brandon, in a statement, said that he and the First Lady were praying for the victims and their families. We still need to learn about the motivation for today's shooting as law enforcement does its work. Well, you could probably go down to McLean and ask the division that perpetrated it what their motivation was. Oops, did I say that out loud? But we don't need anything else to state a clear moral truth. A racially motivated hate crime is abhorrent to the very fabric of this nation, he said. Any act of domestic terrorism, including an act perpetrated in the name of repugnant white nationalist ideology, is antithetical to everything we stand for in America. So that's the basics of what happened here, and we've got a little bit of deep dive going into this as well. From CNN, because of course it's from CNN. Mass shooting at Buffalo supermarket was a racist hate crime, police say. From Eric Levinson, Sarah Jorgensen, Polo Sandoval, and Samantha Beach. I almost want to watch this just because of the uber cringy shirt that this guy's got on. You know what? We're going to do it.
We're hearing from some of the people who witnessed the shooting in Buffalo. Here's how one man described the attack.
From what I saw, I just left out the store and I stopped here and I started to drink my juice and I heard a gunshot that I knew was a gunshot and not a firecracker. So I looked up and I seen smoke. Then I seen a guy in a full army suit just shooting shots at people. And I seen a security guard running the store. And then I seen the guy go in, army style, bent over, just shooting at people. And I heard him shooting at people. And then I saw 3 people laying down. And I didn't have a phone on me. So I was just screaming for somebody to call the police. And then he came out. He put the gun to his head, to his chin. Then he dropped it and he took off his bulletproof vest, and then he got on his hands and knees and put his hands behind his back, and then they arrested him. And it's a shame because there was a lot of people in there.
Just like seeing all of that, like what was going through your mind?
I still don't even believe it happened. Actually, that a person would go into a supermarket full of people. I have an aunt in there. I know some other women in there. One woman just had her a baby, so hopefully they're okay. But it's a shame, and something has to happen because this is ridiculous.
We're hearing from some of the
Shut up.
We're hearing from some of the people
Hey!
who witnessed.
I said stop talking. So that's the witness statement here from CNN. The 18-year-old suspected on opening fire at a Buffalo supermarket Saturday told authorities he was targeting the black community, according to an official familiar with the investigation. The alleged gunman made disturbing statements describing his motive and state of mind following his arrest, the official said. The statements were clear and filled with hate towards the black community. Investigators also uncovered other information from search warrants and other methods indicating the alleged shooter was studying previous hate attacks and shootings, the official said. Yeah, it does seem like it was written by somebody who has studied a lot of mass shootings, oddly enough. Like somebody maybe who works in a division that has access to research on a lot of mass shootings, perhaps. The revelation comes a day after the gunman killed 10 people and wounded 3 others at the Tops Friendly Markets store in a predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo. 11 of the people who were shot were black, officials said. The victims range in age from 20 to 86, police said. Buffalo police identified all 13 victims on Sunday. Among them were a former police officer who tried to stop the shooter, the octogenarian mother of the city's former fire commissioner, and a long-term substitute teacher. 2 people remain hospitalized in stable condition, a spokesman for Erie County Medical Center said on Saturday night. The suspect was identified as Peyton S. Gendron, a rifle-toting 18-year-old from Conklin who allegedly wrote a white supremacist manifesto online, traveled about 200 miles from to the store and live-streamed the attack, authorities said. So, he writes the manifesto. He's 4 hours from his purported address. He drove 4 hours to do this. And detailed the entire thing before he did. Man, I have a lot of questions. Buffalo Police Commissioner Joseph Gramaglia said Sunday the attack was a racist hate crime and will be prosecuted as such. I'm sure it was. The evidence that we have uncovered so far makes no mistake that this is an absolute racist hate crime. It will be prosecuted as a hate crime, he said. This is someone who has hate in his heart, soul, and mind. Investigators believe the suspect acted on his own in the shooting, Gramaglia said. Honk, honk. The suspect was in Buffalo a day before the shooting and did some reconnaissance at the Tops Market store, the commissioner said. Gendron, the suspect, surrendered to police and was taken into custody. He is charged with first-degree murder, prosecutor said, and pleaded not guilty in court on Saturday night. The Buffalo City Court Chief Judge Craig Hanna told CNN. Which is weird because if you read the manifesto, he assured us that he was going to plead guilty. We'll talk about that in a little bit. On Sunday, Kathy Hochul announced $2.8 million in federal and state funding for the victims and their families, according to a statement from her office. The past 24 hours have been traumatizing for New Yorkers, and my admin will spare no effort to ensure the victims of this act of terrorism by a white supremacist are receiving all the resources and support they need, Hochul said in a statement. The entire world is watching how we come together as New Yorkers to overcome this unthinkable tragedy. Buffalo, my hometown, is the city of good neighbors, and the city and New York State will be good neighbors for them. This actually reminds me, I do need to reach out and do a wellness check on a friend of mine who lives in that city. I don't know if she is in that area or not, but I know that she lives in that city somewhere. I've never actually been to that city. In addition, Hochul announced a partnership with Uber and Lyft to provide transport to and from local grocery stores for affected community members. The grocery store company, Tops Market, is also providing free transportation to members of the Buffalo community affected by the shooting to ensure our neighbors are able to meet their grocery and pharmacy needs, according to an update on Twitter from the grocery store chain, which that in and of itself, regardless of my thoughts on what happened with the shooting, I'm happy to see. I'm happy to see charity from the private sector coming in and saying, hey, let's make sure that these people can still live while this is investigated. While the Tops location at Jefferson Avenue will remain closed until further notice, we are steadfast in our commitment to serving every corner of the community, as we have for the past 60 years. The statement reads, knowing the importance of this location and serving families on the east side of the city, we have taken immediate steps to ensure our neighbors are able to meet their grocery and pharmacy needs by providing free bus shuttle service starting today. The Buffalo attack was the deadliest U.S. mass shooting of the year. There have been at least 198 mass shootings, honk honk, per the Gun Violence Archive, which, like CNN, defines a mass shooting as 4 or more people shot, not including the shooter. Oh, 198, you say? The owner of a firearms shop in New York told the New York Times that the suspect recently bought a Bushmaster assault weapon. A background check on the suspect at the time showed nothing. Donald told the Times, which is weird because it does appear that he has had mental health issues documented in the past. So that's what we see off of that. Let's grab one from our friends over at NPR. And this will be when I explain the manifesto, what I found out of it, and why I think that this is much more of an admission of federal involvement. But we'll talk about that after this, because NPR isn't using the word manifesto, according to Tony Caven. And don't forget, in order to tell you how to emotionally feel about something like this, how to grieve properly, and call for an end to guns, not gun violence, but an end to guns, for even the most law-abiding citizen, and usher in socialism to our world, you have to donate to NPR, because your taxpayer money is not enough to keep them afloat. So hit that donate button, because it's not your money, comrade, it's our money. They are never printing reality. Let's see what it is they have to say over on NPR, National Progressive Radio. Any decision involving how to cover a mass shooting is by definition difficult, and to some extent a balancing act. We have a duty to inform listeners and readers what happened. Details are important to paint a full and accurate picture of the events, but at the same time, we're dealing with an individual who's committed a horrific criminal act in an attempt to win attention either to themselves or to a cause that they're trying to promote. Our job is to report the facts, not help the shooter carry out those aims. As anyone following the story knows, the Buffalo shooter allegedly published a 180-page document that repeats a series of racist conspiracy theories, often referred to as the Great Replacement, in an attempt to justify his plan to search out African Americans and murder them. It is very important that audiences know the shooter's purported motives were, and that the Great Replacement theory was part of them. That argument has moved from the far-right fringes to more mainstream politics in recent years, and the shooter's citing of it is newsworthy. Where? Where is that move to mainstream politics? Webster's New World Dictionary defines manifesto as a public declaration of motives and intentions, as by a political party or by an avant-garde movement. So to refer to the shooter's document as a manifesto, in my opinion, implicitly takes the twisted racist and anti-Semitic rantings that comprise it far more seriously than they deserve to be taken, and gives it a level of credibility that furthers the shooter's aims. Rantings. Hey, tell me you haven't read the manifesto without telling me you haven't read the manifesto. I have. Unfortunately, mass shootings are common enough that we've had far too many opportunities to weigh this issue. Back in 19, my predecessor as editor for Standards and Practices at NPR, Mark Memmott, responding to the shooting in New Zealand by a man who expressed similar motives, asked the newsroom to move away from calling the document the shooter left online as a manifesto. The word manifesto, Memmott wrote, also may elevate such a statement in the eyes of those who may want to copy the person's actions to something more than it might really have been. That warning holds true today. A manifesto can also be seen as a call to action. There are many words, statements, screed, and simply writings that have come to mind that accurately characterize the online document. You have not read a word of this document, you fucking cuck. I can tell just by the way you describe it, you have not read a word of this document. Not one. Not using the word manifesto in no way deprives our audience of information. It helps to deprive the shooter of the platform that he was looking for. You have not read a word of this. I can tell, just by the way you reported that. Now, as far as this goes, the manifesto, I've read it front to back. It is approximately 14 pages of the intent. It's like 5 pages of the intent and then 9 pages of Q&A. Potential questions that a person might ask of a person who is in this position. Why this person is purporting it. Why this person is doing it. What could have been done to stop it, etc. The bulk of the document is technical specifications for weapons, most of which were not used in the perpetration of this attack. The technical specifications of guns, ammunition, magazines, body armor, helmets. And I look at this more and more. Having read it, I can see in numerous places that this might have been planted. And I mean, this whole thing seems to glow more and more, having read the manifesto. First and foremost, all those pages that are nothing but technical specs and documents. And I don't even know where I was going to go with specs. Just technical specs, copy and pasted. And several pages of copy and pasted 4chan memes to try to remind you of the fact that this gentleman spent time on 4chan, he was radicalized on 4chan. But looking at the way that it's written, A, it's incredibly eloquent. And B, there are sections of it, as mentioned, that were literally full-on copy and pasted from the Christchurch shooting, from the Christchurch manifesto. But one of the biggest pieces of suspicion that I've had about this entire thing is the fact that this seems to be a series of statements that almost feel like a series of breadcrumbs to right-wing online figures who are going to look at this and use this to come back out and tell left-wing online figures who have not read a page of the document, like Tony Cavan, that no, see, he's actually on the left. This is actually a left thing. Hey, left-wingers are the real racists. I mean, it's stated pretty clearly, according to whoever actually wrote the document, and I'm not 100% positive that a particular shooter did. I'm leaning towards that he's not the one that wrote this. He says explicitly that he considers himself to be a left-winger in the document. Left authoritarian on the political compass. That's one of the big ones. And again, most of your people who are going to argue with you about this on the left, or from the left rather, are going to, instantly come back out and say, no, he was a right-winger because he was racist. But regardless of that, it now stokes the next division because 25 right-wingers are going to jump on that comment and ratio that person explicitly saying, no, he was a left-winger. This whole thing just seems artfully crafted to divide. To an extent that I don't think some 18-year-old kid in, where did they say that he was from? Somewhere in New York City? Has the emotional capacity to do. I do encourage you to read it for yourself. It's in the Discord. If it hasn't been taken back down again, I guess I haven't gone to check to see if it is. But that's what we have for here. From Pittsburgh's Action News 4, Buffalo supermarket shooter targeted black neighborhood, officials say. Yeah, he talked about that too. And one of the things, by the way, he did point out specifically that he was going to do this in New York. Once again, we'll question whether it was him that wrote it or the agent that wrote it for him, but explicitly said that he was going to do it in New York because he didn't want to face the possibility that somebody who was legally armed had a firearm on him that carried more than 10 rounds in a mag. He didn't want to deal with that. So, hey, why not do it over in Buffalo, New York, where you have magazine restrictions? The white 18-year-old who fatally shot 10 people at a Buffalo supermarket researched local demographics and arrived a day in advance to conduct reconnaissance with intent of killing as many black people as possible, officials say. The racially motivated attack came a year after the gunman was taken to a hospital by state police after making threats involving his high school, according to local authorities. He wasn't charged with a crime and was out of the hospital within a day and a half, police said, but the revelation raised questions about his access to weapons and whether he could have been under closer supervision by law enforcement. The Buffalo attack prompted grief and anger in the predominantly black neighborhood around Tops Friendly Market. A group of people gathered there Sunday afternoon to lead chants of Black Lives Matter and mourn the victims. That included an 86-year-old woman who had just visited her husband in the nursing home and a supermarket security guard, both of whom were black. Someone filled his heart so full of hate that he would destroy and devastate our community, the Reverend Denise Walden Glenn said. Speaking at the National Peace Officers Memorial Service at the U.S. Capitol, President Biden said, we must work together to address the hate that remains as a stain on the soul of America. The White House later announced that the President and First Lady would travel to Buffalo on Tuesday to grieve with the community and take a photo op. The Buffalo attack was the deadliest multiple shooting across the country in recent days. Officials in Milwaukee imposed curfew after 21 people were injured in 3 separate shootings near an entertainment district where thousands gathered Friday for an NBA playoff game. 3 other shootings over the weekend in the Midwest have left 3 people dead. On Sunday, 2 shootings, one at a Houston flea market and another at a California church, left 3 people dead and others wounded. I don't have one on the Houston flea market, but I do have the California church one. As the country reeled from the Buffalo attack, new details emerged about the gunman's past and Saturday's rampage, which the shooter live-streamed on Twitch. Kathy Opel, a Buffalo native, demanded technology companies tell her whether they've done everything humanly possible to make sure they're monitoring violent content as soon as it appears. Because Big Brother is always watching. If not, then I'm going to hold you responsible, she said. Twitch said in a statement that it ended the transmission less than 2 minutes after the violence started. New York State Police said troopers were called early last June to the high school, then attended by the alleged gunman, Peyton Gendron, for a report that a 17-year-old student had made threatening statements. Gendron threatened to carry out a shooting at the Susquehanna Valley High School in Conklin, New York. Around the time of graduation, a law enforcement official who spoke on condition of anonymity said the official was not authorized to speak publicly on the investigation, and yet he was able to walk into a store under New York law, which is supposed to be more stringent than anywhere else in the country, and walk out with an AR-style Bushmaster. Police Commissioner Joseph Gramaglia said Gendron had no further contact with law enforcement after his release from the hospital. Nobody called in, so he was hospitalized for mental illness at 17. And yet he was able to walk in to a store and purchase a Bushmaster AR style. Nobody called in. He said nobody called any complaints, Gramaglia said. Federal law bars people from owning a gun if a judge has determined they have a mental defect or they have been forced into a mental institution, but an evaluation alone would not trigger the prohibition. Federal authorities were still working to confirm the authenticity of a racist 180-page document purportedly written by Gendron that detailed his plans, warned of the attack, and reasons for carrying it out. A preliminary investigation found Gendron had repeatedly visited sites espousing white supremacist ideologies and race-based conspiracy theories and extensively researched the 2019 mosque shootings in Christchurch, New Zealand, and the man who killed dozens at a summer camp in Norway in 2011, the law enforcement official told the Dissociated Press. Federal agents served multiple search warrants and interviewed Gendron's parents who were cooperating with investigators, law enforcement officials said. Kind of wonder what that is.
Y'all pick up. It don't matter if you live around here. Just pick up.
Yes, I come at times every day. I just had left out of here. I just left, and I usually come back. Think I ain't come back.
And so you said that some of the people, you knew some
Yes.
of the people. We know about the retired...
Buffalo police officer. I was just talking to him yesterday morning while I was in Tops.
And what were you talking about?
We was just talking. I was playing my numbers. He said, I see you playing your numbers. I laughed, and I went home. And he was playing his numbers, too. Can you imagine seeing somebody and then you don't know they gonna go home?
Hey, could you tell us about him?
He was a nice guy, you know. He cared about the community. He looked after the store. He did a good job. You know, he was very nice and respectable. And he walked us in the store. We did something. He let us know if we was right or wrong.
It's just too much. I just can't. I'm trying to bear with it. It's just too much. You can't even go to the damn store in peace. It's so crazy.
And people this morning are bringing flowers. The makeshift memorials are growing. Others are trying to figure out how and when they're going to be able to get the cars out again.
I do like the people that are on Twitter right now trying to tell us that, oh, he surrendered to police without a single shot. No, he was shot at numerous times. He was wearing body armor. It's typically the people that'll come back out and try to tell you that, if you're black and you get stopped for a taillight out, that's your death sentence right there. From Rolling Stone. Apparently, I'm a racist Republican too, because I've said the exact same thing. Racist Republican lawmaker claims white supremacist Buffalo shooting was a false flag. You have a lot of accusations. And that's just in this headline, Tom Dickinson, that you are going to have to back up. And I don't know anything about Wendy Rogers, but I'm pretty positive she's probably not racist. Before he went on a racist rampage in a Buffalo grocery store on Saturday, killing 10 people, Peyton Gendron is believed to have written a hate-filled screed promoting a conspiracy theory that white people are facing ethnic, cultural, and racial displacement by immigrants, aka white genocide. It is an extreme position promoted widely on the right, including by others who have carried out deadly attacks in places like El Paso and Pittsburgh. Among the deplorable set, those on the alt-right, for whom this is a great replacement theory, has true cultural currency. Saturday's mass shootings is drawing a mix of denial and deflection. Fuentes, oh, Jesus Christ, this is going to be entertaining. The young white supremacist who also bemoans white genocide leads the Groyper movement online and organizes the annual America First Political Action Conference, took to his Telegram channel as news of the killings broke to immediately and without evidence insists this was a false flag attack. Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers, a member of the Oath Keepers who has appeared at Fuentes' AFPAC conference, made a similar claim, conspiratorially suggesting Gendron was a government agent. Fat Boy Summer has started in Buffalo, Rogers wrote in a Telegram post. VDARE, a virulently anti-immigrant outfit designed as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Dude, seriously? That's your citation? I wouldn't be surprised if KTZed Redemption is designated as a hate group by the SPLC. Didn't directly respond to the shooting, but posted an article to its Telegram account plainly intended as a deflection headlined, "Whites responsible for less than 3% of all mass shootings in 2022 so far, but black attacks skyrocket," replete with a picture of the Brooklyn subway shooting suspect Frank James. Cernovich, the one-time Pizzagate conspiracy theorist who has tweeted that diversity is code for white genocide, labored to paint Gendron as an ideological foe of the right, an environmentalist Nazi who fell under demonic influence. Laura Loomer, the alt-right troll who's running for Congress from Florida, began with a distraction. She first tenuously tried to link the shooting with current abortion politics, writing in Telegram, "Planned Parenthood has still targeted and killed more black people than Buffalo supermarket shooter. Facts matter. Oof." Ooh. I guess sometimes the truth really does hurt. In a later post, Loomer, who is Jewish, attempted to grapple with the grotesque anti-Semitism of the shooter's manifesto. "Anyone who hates Jews just hate Jews is stupid and low IQ," she wrote. "There is no reason to blindly hate Jews," with a disclaimer about the way, however, Loomer launched into a full-throated defense of the Great Replacement panic that appears to have motivated the shooter. Being worried about the replacement theory is not a radical stance, Loomer wrote, insisting the war on white people is very real. Well, see, the problem that I have with this is the fact that you can't come out and say that there's no way this was not a false flag when this has so many markers of a false flag. I'm not going to rule one way or another whether or not it was, but I will say, as usual, when I see this many indicators that are of a suspicious nature, what do I always say? What 3 words? I have questions that are probably not going to get answered. From 2WGRZ, we'll touch on this just a little bit. This is a list of the victims. Who are the victims of the mass shooting in Buffalo? We have Aaron Salter, the store security guard. He's been identified. Buffalo Commissioner Joseph Gramaglia said Salter was a hero in our eyes. Ruth Whitfield, 86, the former fire commissioner's mother. Pearlie Young, 77, was killed on a Sunday shopping for groceries. She loved singing and dancing and being with family. Two on Your Side is working to confirm the names of the other victims in the shooting. We will continue to update this story as we get more information. One of those injured is the son of a staffer in State Senator Tim Kennedy's office. The Associated Press identified him as Zaire Goodman. Goodman was shot in the neck, but is recovering. Kennedy told a church service on Sunday Goodman is the son of staffer for Kennedy. "I'm devastated. I'm angry," Kennedy said, "and I'm thinking about the families who won't welcome a loved one home tonight." Got another one here from our friends at NPR. What we know so far about the Buffalo mass shooting from Emily Bowman, and if you didn't get enough money over to them, they still need more. So please do hit that donate button because they need to tell you what it is that you're supposed to think. You cannot think for yourself. Remember that thinking for yourself is highly dangerous and toxic individualism. So let NPR do it for you and donate for them to do it. NPR, National Progressive Radio. Let's listen. A white 18-year-old gunman allegedly carried out racist attack at a supermarket in Buffalo on Saturday, killing 10 and injuring 3 others. According to authorities, almost all the victims were black. Here's what else we know. The shooter faces life in prison, obviously. "11 of the 13 victims were black." How the police say the attack unfolded: the alleged gunman drove more than 200 miles from Conklin and arrived in East Buffalo the day before the attack to conduct a recon. The shooting at Tops began at 2:30 p.m. in a parking lot outside the store, located in a predominantly black neighborhood around 3 miles from downtown. The gunman stepped out of his car wearing tactical gear and opened fire with an assault-style rifle, shooting 4 people, officials said. 3 of the people died after the gunman worked his way into the store. The security guard, Aaron Salter, attempted to stop the shooter by firing his gun, but the gunman's body armor shielded him from a bullet. The suspect then shot and killed Stalter. The shooter was an apparent white supremacist who left plans for a racist attack. Honk, honk. The gunman used a Bushman AR-style rifle in the Buffalo shooting with an attachable high-capacity magazine, a banned device in New York, meaning it was illegally purchased or illegally transported across state lines, Hochul says. Police also recovered a second rifle and a handgun from his car. The suspect had threatened a shooting at his high school last year. He was subsequently sent to a hospital for a mental health evaluation that lasted a day and a half. Also coming to us from the New York Times, a former newspaper. Buffalo shooting: suspect was held for mental health evaluation last year, officials said. And this is a live updates page, so we'll hold off on this one. But yeah, this seems like a tremendous failure. If this let me rephrase that. If this occurred the way that the news media is trying to tell us this occurred, this seems like a tremendous failure on the government's part, because they knew who this kid was, they knew what his intentions were, they knew what he wanted to do, and they did allegedly nothing about it. They just let it happen, just like with the Parkland shooter, which, by the way, I note also happened on the 14th of a month. And this guy had 14 written all over the barrel of his Bushmaster, but at 18 years old, able to walk into the store, say, "I want that Bushmaster right there," pass the background check after having just been in the loony bin for an evaluation over a day the year before. And yeah, even the New York Times is saying the man accused of killing 10 at a Buffalo supermarket on Saturday had made threats against the high school, police said. A gun dealer who said he sold the suspect an assault weapon in recent months described a routine transaction. Now, and I don't know if this falls under small-town itis either, by the way. I don't know if this falls under a situation like that where in a small town, because how big is Conklin? Let's look that up. $5,000 people. So it's small enough where I think most of your people are going to know everybody in the town. And you have to question then whether, the sheriff that you're going to have to see in the supermarket every day is going to go back and report to the FBI without parents coming back and saying, "Hey, come on, man. I got guns too. If this guy's really a red flag list, I have to take the guns out of my house. Come on." I do have to wonder if there's some aspect of that, but if these laws are in place where pending a background check you're denied firearms, because you had some sort of mental defect, then they need to be enforced. Now, I don't think these laws should be in place anyway, but if they are in place, they need to be enforced. And work on getting some of these people who have the capacity to do this into the institution. I mean, these are people that would not be considered citizens and subject to the Second Amendment due to criminal insanity, lunacy, by the Founding Fathers. Especially given the fact that he's got the history. But there again, I have a lot of questions about this. Based on how this happened, based on the availability of manifesto, based on a manifesto that will embolden and empower MAGA people, right-wing people, and people who are neither, to go back and say, see, he's really a left-winger. And all I see is another situation that divides us. Let's grab the last shooting, now that we've been here for well over an hour. From the LA Times, churchgoers hogtied gunman after deadly Laguna Woods church shooting, motive unclear. Let me actually start with this one here. Then we'll do this one. At least one dead and 4 critically wounded in shooting at California church, from Joe Sutton. At least one person is dead and 4 are critically injured after a shooting Sunday at a church in Laguna Woods, California, according to the Sheriff's Department. All victims were adults and are en route to the hospital, the Orange County Sheriff's Department said in a tweet. One victim is deceased at the scene. Another person has minor injuries, according to a tweet. The shooting occurred at Geneva Presbyterian Church during a lunch reception to honor a former pastor of Taiwanese congregation that uses a church for its worship services, according to Tom Kramer, a Presbyterian leader. Police have a suspect in custody, Orange County Undersheriff Jeff Halleck said during a news conference on Sunday evening. He is believed to be an Asian man in his 60s who doesn't live in the area, according to Halleck. Police do not yet have a motive, Halleck said. The subject was detained at the scene after a group of people at the church were able to hogtie the legs with an extension cord and confiscate at least 2 handguns from him, Halleck said. That group of churchgoers displayed what we believe is an exceptional heroism in interfering or intervening to stop the suspect, Halleck said. About 30 to 40 people were in attendance at the reception, according to Halleck. California Governor Gavin Newsom said his office is working closely with law enforcement, brah. No one should have to fear going to their place of worship, says the person who tried to shut down places of worship on a semi-permanent basis. Our thoughts are with the victims, community, and those impacted by this tragic event, Newsom said in a tweet. The Taiwanese congregation, which became a sister congregation at Geneva Presbyterian Church about 5 or 6 years ago, always holds a lunch after their Sunday morning service, Laguna Woods Mayor Pro Tem Cynthia Connors told CNN. We'll see what we can do to meet with the members of the congregation. We'll bring someone from the Orange County Human Rights Commission and try to make sure that the Asian members of our community feel as safe as all the other members of our community. Although I would have to say, I think we all feel a little less safe today, Connors said. So, that's what we see off of that. Now, I look at, first off, these 3 shootings that we've talked about. We're going to hold off on these other 2 articles just because we're up on time, but we see New York, strict gun laws, specifically cited by the manifesto, if you take the manifesto at face value, specifically cited the fact that there are strict gun laws in Buffalo. That's the reason that he chose Buffalo, New York to begin with, because of the strict laws in the state of New York. You have California, in which owning a gun legally is pretty much an act of God. And then Milwaukee. While Wisconsin itself doesn't have a very, very strict state gun law, Milwaukee County and City have very stringent laws on transport and carrying of weapons. And most of these places in the Deer District have some sort of metal detector around them too. So you've got 3 areas with extremely stringent gun laws where people are likely to be unarmed, where these tragedies have taken place with almost no pushback off there. I guess there was pushback from the one in California, but I would be willing to bet that the person hesitated in that one. And on that, from the Hill, surprise, surprise, Democrats call for action after Buffalo, Milwaukee shootings. It doesn't have to be this way. From Lexi Lonis, just one more law, you guys. One more law, and that'll stop all of them. Just give us one more law. Oh, shit, that didn't stop anything? Okay, give us one more law after that. Is the live chat back up here? From Lexi Lonis. Democrat lawmakers on Saturday responded to shootings in Buffalo, New York, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin that together left more than 10 people and dozens dead and dozens injured, decrying the violent attacks and issuing calls to action. All right, with that, we've seen what happened there. Here are the responses, though. Horrified. Is that a Gadsden silver round? We'll note that for later. Horrified by the mass shootings in Buffalo, we are in communication with local leaders and authorities to try to offer any federal support necessary, Rep. Brian Higgins, whose district includes Buffalo, tweeted. Chuck U. Schumer said he's following the situation and advised people to listen to local law enforcement. I'm actively monitoring the situation with the grocery store shooting in Buffalo. We are standing with the people of Buffalo. If you're in Buffalo, please follow the guidance of local law enforcement, Schumer wrote. I ache for the victims and their families. I ache for Buffalo. I ache for the tight-knit East Side community. Racism has no place in our state or our country, he added in a later tweet. I've spoken with Mayor of Buffalo and offered to help. Any help we can provide. We stand with the people of Buffalo. My Senator Baldwin says I'm devastated to learn about the senseless gun violence in Milwaukee last night. What about the senseless gun violence that happens in Milwaukee every other night? Tammy. My heart breaks for the victims, their families, and the Milwaukee community. I hope for speedy recoveries, Tammy Baldwin said. This is another unfortunate reminder we must work together to confront the scourge of gun violence. A number of lawmakers condemned what authorities said were racist motivations behind the Buffalo shooting and called for Congress to take action to try to reduce further gun violence. So, he took illegal magazines, legally purchased gun, we had that conversation, but illegal magazines 200 miles away, so already broke one law, and then he broke 11 more laws by killing 11 people. Called for Congress to take action to try to reduce further gun violence. My prayers are with the families of this, with the victims of this racially motivated act of violence, and my heart goes out to the victims' loved ones, our emergency personnel, and the entire Buffalo community. Racism, prejudice, and hatred have no place in our country, Kirsten Gillibrand tweeted. I pledge to the people of New York that I will continue to fight my hardest to pass, what's that word? What's that buzzword? Common sense gun measure. I confront and defeat the scourge of white supremacy. I know we can't stop all gun violence, but can we finally acknowledge that refusal to do anything is shameful? Ted Deutsch said, the Senate can at least hold a vote on the background check bills we passed, maybe save a life. Today we're reminded again that we must try. Why? Why? This person passed a background check. New York already has universal background check. This person passed his background check. So what is your background check bill going to do? Carolyn Maloney of New York hit the GOP over its stance on gun control while making references to Republicans' efforts to restrict abortion access, because of course she did. Racist extremists are armed to the teeth with weapons of mass murder in this country, and the pro-life party doesn't want to do a damn thing to stop it, Maloney tweeted. So, yes, there you go. One more law, you guys. One more law. That'll fix everything. Let's just have one more law. All right. Let's keep going. From CNN, we'll move on. We'll talk about what's going on in Europe. Finland will seek to join NATO, leaders say, ditching decades of neutrality despite Russia's threats of retaliation. From Tara John. Finland's government said Sunday it intends to join NATO, ditching decades of neutrality and ignoring Russian threats of possible retaliation in the Nordic country attempts to strengthen its security following the onset of the war in Ukraine. Sweden's ruling party later said that it also support joining the alliance. The decision was announced at a joint press conference by President Sauli Niinisto and Prime Minister Sanna Marin, who said that the move must be ratified by the country's parliament before Finland can formally seek membership of the alliance. We hope that parliament will confirm the decision to apply for NATO membership, Marin said, in Helsinki on Sunday. During the coming days, it will be based on strong mandate, and the President of the Republic. We have been in close contact with governments of NATO member states and NATO itself. We are close partners with NATO, but it's a historic decision that we will join NATO and hopefully are making the decisions together, she added. The move would bring the US-led military alliance up to Finland's 830-mile border with Russia, but could take months to finalize as the legislatures of all 30 current NATO members must approve new applicants. It also risked provoking the ire of Russia, whose president had told his Finnish counterpart, Niinisto, on Saturday that abandoning military neutrality and joining the bloc would be a mistake, according to a Kremlin statement. On Saturday, Russia cut its electric supply to the Nordic country following problems in receiving payments. Now it looks like Turkey is actually standing against this as well. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg responded to the news on Sunday, saying, NATO's door is open to the Nordic nations. Finland and Sweden are NATO's closest partners, Stoltenberg told the press conference, but NATO member Turkey, which has presented itself as a mediator between Russia and Ukraine, has expressed reservations about integrating these two countries to the alliance. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said on Friday he's not looking at Finland and Sweden joining NATO positively, accusing both countries of housing Kurdish terrorist organizations. Erdogan was referencing the Kurdistan Workers' Party, which seeks an independent state in Turkey. The group has been in an armed struggle with Ankara for decades, but has been designated as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the US, and the EU. So, and of course, this was never supposed to go east of Germany either, but here are the members before 1991. Iceland, Norway, UK, all of Europe, except for Switzerland and Hungary. And then after 1991, in the Baltics, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, the Czech, Slovakia, Hungary, Slovenia, Croatia, Montenegro, Albania, Greece, North Macedonia, Bulgaria, and Romania. And by the way, soon, given the fact that they have to go back and launder the money, and Turkey is also a part of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization as well. So, look, as far as it goes, I would say that Finland is an independent country. NATO is an independent organization, and if they can both agree, I don't think Finland is under Russian rule. I mean, if our worst fears come to pass, it might be after this, but I don't think it's under Russian rule. It occurs to me that they can do whatever the hell they want. Doesn't that occur to you? If their people want it, and they can muster the votes, and the people of the EU want it, or North Atlantic Treaty Organization want it. Why shouldn't they join? From Fox, Finland president surprised at Putin's calm response to NATO membership news. From Peter Aitken. Finnish President Sauli Niinisto claimed that Russian President Putin responded calmly when told Finland would apply for NATO membership. Although the discussion was very good, Niinisto said on State of the Union on Sunday, I stay calm and cool. And he did not repeat those threats he had earlier. Yeah. His people have been telling that that if Finland joins, it means some kind of contra steps. Military contra steps, whatever that meant. But he didn't repeat it now. Finnish officials announced Sunday that the previously neutral country would indeed apply to join NATO despite numerous threats from Russia. This is a historic day. A new era begins, Niinisto said at a joint news conference on Sunday ahead of the talk show appearance. Putin only one day earlier had warned Finland that relations could be negatively affected should Niinisto proceed with an application for NATO membership. I mean, it's somewhat understandable, especially if you share that big of a border with Russia in the midst of what's going on with Ukraine. But we'll see what happens. From the Hill, Mitch McConnell. McConnell urges Biden to name Russia a state sponsor of terrorism. From Alexander Bolton. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell on Sunday urged President Biden to name Russia a state sponsor of terrorism, which would lift sovereign immunity protections, shielding the country from being sued for civil damages. I think that's a good idea, and I would support that, he told reporters during a press call from Stockholm. The president could do it on his own, and I would urge him to do it. McConnell made his recommendation, designate Russia as a sponsor of terrorism, after meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Saturday. 3 other Republican senators, John Barrasso of Wyoming, John Cornyn of Texas, and Susan Collins of Maine, also attended the meeting. McConnell said that he assured Zelensky that support for Ukraine in this war against the Russians is bipartisan, and that the overwhelming majority of national security-minded Republicans support the Ukrainian resistance to the Russian invasion, despite recent criticism of a $40 billion Ukrainian aid package by prominent Republicans, such as former President Trump and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, and notably, one Rand Paul. This naked aggression must not stand, McConnell said. I wanted to assure them that within Congress there was a very broad support for continuing the fight. The GOP leader made his comments after Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut and Lindsey Graham introduced a resolution last week calling for the designation of the Russian Federation as a state sponsor of terrorism. The bipartisan measure would call on Anthony Blinken to put Russia on the list, where it would join Cuba, North Korea, Iran, and Syria. So it's mostly symbolic when we look at something like this, the fact that, yes, they're going to get this title, they're going to get this sort of designation off of this, but the bipartisan thing, that just blows my mind. Number one, how many Democrats can get on board with this, including, by the way, all the members of the squad who ran on an anti-war platform, voting for this military package, and how many old, stodgy establishment Republicans are onto it as well. From the Blaze, Bill Maher blasts Biden's Ministry of Truth, warns Democrats that the Disinformation Governance Board would have a field day with Obama's big lie. Let's watch. Let's read a little bit into this first. Bill Maher issued a warning that the Biden admin's Disinformation Governance Board could backfire on Democrats. The HBO host hammered home his point by highlighting a live by former President Obama. As an example, Maher took a shot at the incoming disinformation czar, Nina Jankowicz. In late April, the Department of Homeland Security created the board. On Friday night's episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, the liberal talk show host said he agreed with the newly formed department's role in combating Russian disinformation since their adversary in trying to hurt us. However, Maher was deeply concerned with how the Disinformation Governance Board could be politically weaponized. Let's listen.
Weekend. Let's pause and take a moment to think about how your mother was always there for you, looking after you and keeping you safe. And then realize that's not Twitter's job. Keeping you safe and sorting out the lies from the truth is your job. When we talk about misinformation, we always focus on the producers, never the consumers, as if we're all helpless, dumb blondes ready to believe anything, like Donald Trump.
Oh, he said Trump!
Now, do lies spread faster than they used to? Of course, but so can truth, which in the internet age is always at your fingertips. You just have to learn how to use Google for something other than porn. But this idea that we can clean up Twitter and protect you from fake news and disinformation, it's so ridiculous. It's like fact-checking the graffiti on the bathroom wall of a dive bar. We called this number and we didn't have a good time. People always lie. That's what people do. Every age is the misinformation age. And whenever a new means of communication comes along, some reach right for the censor button. In 1858, the New York Times thought we couldn't handle the transatlantic telegraph. They said it was superficial and too fast for the truth. In 1487, the Pope issued an order to stop the misuse of the printing press for the distribution of pernicious writing. You know, fake news. Like how the earth is a ball. In 1938, radio was the hot medium of the day, and lots of people got plenty worked up about it, especially after Orson Welles presented what was obviously a fictitious drama about a Martian invasion of New Jersey, and thousands of people thought it was real and panicked. You cannot censor away that level of naivete. The Martians had the whole universe to invade, and they chose New Jersey?
I mean, God, I can't believe these words are about to come out of my mouth. Bill's he's got a point. He really does. Hold on, I gotta collect my thoughts after saying something like that, because that is something I never thought I would say throughout my entire life. But, I mean, he understands where the problems lie in doing something like this, and one of the things that I pointed out with a disinformation board, is what does happen if that goes into the other direction. And not talking about like populist Republicans like Lauren Boebert or Donald Trump. I'm talking about actual Christian neocon conservatives who've already tried to do something like this. And how this could get weaponized. A, number one. And then B, yes, how this can get weaponized against you and I. Somebody like me, who's coming out here and giving the narrative that the mainstream media doesn't want, and questioning what happened in Buffalo, and not accepting what the news media says, that this was an obvious white supremacist attack, and this guy totally wrote this manifesto himself. And, my God, actually reading the thing myself, oh my God, he might be informed. He might not get his information from us. And he might tell other people to do the same thing. The horror! Oh, the horror! As far as what's coming across from Russia, no, we shouldn't have a board for that too. You should be able to look at this, try to fact check it if you don't believe it, instead of jumping right in. We are not, as he said, a series of dumb, dizzy blondes who just believe everything that's told to us. All right, let's go talk about the abortion thing. We still have so much to finish up here. From the New York Times, a former newspaper. Where's the headline? Pregnant? Need help? They have an agenda. From Carly Thompson, Carrie Ann Baker, and Zach Levitt. With the Supreme Court likely to overturn Roe v. Wade this year, the American anti-abortion movement is preparing for a near future in which abortion is more restricted in more parts of the country than at any time in the past 50 years. Anti-abortion activists have spent decades fighting Roe while waiting for this moment, in part by establishing a national network of about 2,600 so-called crisis pregnancy centers through which they try to deter women from getting abortions, often with deceptive practices, and in some cases using taxpayer dollars. You know, like the biggest abortion mill in the country. So, it's okay when a national for-profit organization enacts your agenda with taxpayer dollars, but it might be the end of the world if they go after their agenda with taxpayer dollars. As the number of CPCs has increased in the U.S., the number of abortion facilities has dropped from more than 2,700 in 1978 to about 785 as of today. As a result, CPCs now outnumber abortion facilities 3-1. If the Supreme Court overturns Roe, at least 26 states are likely to ban abortion, reducing the number of abortion facilities nationwide to fewer than 600 in this scenario. CPCs would outnumber abortion facilities more than 4-1. Oh, there's hope in the world, isn't there? More than half of American women of reproductive age would live closer to a CPC than to an abortion facility, according to our analysis. Now, number one, I don't buy this map for a second. But this is what they're trying to tell us. Currently, anywhere that's shaded in is where a woman is closer to a crisis pregnancy center than to an abortion mill. And I asked the first question, what's the downside of this argument? I'm surprised Florida is as white as it is. New York, I'm not surprised by. New England, I'm not surprised by. Maine, I'm actually a little bit surprised by. And northern New Hampshire, But like across here, I'm really not that surprised by this. I'm actually a little surprised that there isn't more up here, because I thought there was an unplanned parenthood in Eau Claire, and I thought there was one in La Crosse too. But yeah, around here, the couple that are in Madison, all across the Milwaukee area, and even up towards Green Bay, I'm not surprised by any of those. Over 16 million women of reproductive age in the U.S. currently live closer to a CPC than an abortion facility. In '67, a Christian carpenter in Hawaii named Robert Pearson opened his home as one of the first CPCs in the country as part of the backlash to expanding abortion access around the country. By '73, the year Roe v. Wade was decided, he reported that more than 120 women had visited his center. He later published a 93-page manual on how to start such a center. It was circulated widely among anti-abortion activists across the country. The manual recommends that activists locate CPCs near abortion facilities, choose neutral-sounding names, and show women a slideshow that includes misinformation about the health risks of abortion. The health risks. One of the patients always dies. It includes example scripts to help employees and volunteers deceive women about whether CPC performs abortions. If you didn't think that the New York Times, a former newspaper, was full-on left-wing propaganda, here's your example. So that's what we see coming off of that. Here's one that I thought was funny. The Abilene Reporter News. Unsuspecting men don't yet know that overturning Roe v. Wade will also change their lives. Many unsuspecting men do not yet know that their lives are on the precipice of changing radically. Let's hear this. Unless the leaked draft of the Supreme Court ruling on Roe v. Wade is drastically altered, the nearly 50-year-old ruling, which guarantees women the constitutional right to an abortion, appears poised to fall. Numerous authors have described the collision course will put America, women of childbearing age, onto, with predicted outcomes ranging from the need for women, at least those who can afford to do so, to travel out of state to America, to devolving into an Atwoodian hellscape. Read another book! But it seems that no one is talking about the impact that the end of Roe might have on the other half of population. Men. To be clear, many men support abortion rights. Well, yes, because then they can blow it in some girl unsuspecting and walk away with no consequences. As a sociologist who has studied men's views of abortion, I know the majority of men feel that decisions about terminating or carrying out a pregnancy should be situational. Nearly 70% of men I interviewed said abortion should be legal, and choices about whether they personally would prefer that their partners terminate were dependent on the state of their relationships, their financial situations, and their own maturity. These views are further reinforced by a study from Pew, finding that while men, in general, are less likely to believe abortion should be legal in all or most cases than are women, among young adults who are at most risks of unattended childbearing, 2/3 support abortion rights. The consequences of forced fatherhood, especially if their partners also prefer not to have children, are immense. Fatherhood is a lifelong commitment to child rearing, but even for those men who are not active participants in their children's lives, they will be responsible for years of child support. While data on which men's partners have abortions is scant because individuals tend to partner with people like themselves, we can extrapolate based on what we know about women who opt for abortions. Nearly 1 in 4 women in America will have an abortion by age 45. Of these women, more than half are in their 20s and nearly 60% have at least one child. Most important, 75% are poor or low income. This means that their male partners will often be among the most vulnerable. They are also likely to be young and low income. Those men who already have children with their partners are likely to be in particularly precarious situations. The ability to get a better job by obtaining more education will be thwarted. The need to work multiple jobs to support their families will take away from time spent with the children. Indeed, meeting the markers of successful fatherhood, a career, homeownership, and marriage, will become infinitely more complicated. Well, I would start there by women. Choose better partners. Less often brought up is the impact on men's romantic lives. In 2019, for example, just under 630,000 abortions were performed. The number has been steadily falling since the 80s, in part due to the availability of effective contraception. Some experts anticipate that challenges to Griswold and Eisenstadt versus Baird, which made contraception legal for marriage and unmarried couples, respectively, could soon follow based on similar legal theories. No, that's a panic attack. Avoiding an unattended pregnancy may become far more difficult than these men anticipate unless the 40-year-old happily married men agree to practice a lifetime of abstinence. Of course, such arguments will not sway the nearly 10% of American adults who say abortion should be illegal in all circumstances. According to Pew, and the current focus placed on how such a ruling might impact women is highly appropriate, given that women will face the cruelest consequences of such a decision. But by ignoring the impacts that a severe restriction on abortion can have on men, we risk leaving a huge group of potential allies in the dark. Have you ever tried not fucking? Or at least, at the very least, not blowing it in the girl that you don't want to have kids with. Reuters. U.S. abortion rights activists say start summer of rage with Saturday protests that got completely swallowed up by the shooting in Buffalo. From Gabriella Borter. Abortion rights supporters began gathering for protests across the U.S. on Saturday, starting what organizers said would be a summer of rage if the U.S. Supreme Court overturns Roe that legalizes nationwide abortion. Planned Parenthood, Women's March, and other abortion rights groups organized more than 400 Bands Off Our Bodies marches on Saturday, with the largest turnouts expected in New York City, Washington, Los Angeles, and Chicago. The demonstrations are in response to the May 2nd leak of a draft opinion showing the court's conservative majority ready to reverse the 1973 landmark decision that established a federal constitutional right to terminate a pregnancy. The court's ruling, which could give states the power to ban abortion, is expected in June. About half the U.S. states would ban or severely restrict abortion soon after a ruling vacating Roe. Organizers say they anticipated hundreds of thousands of people to participate in Saturday's events, which they said would be the first of many coordinated protests around the Supreme Court's decision. For the women of this country, this will be a summer of rage, said Rachel Carmona, president of Women's March. We will be ungovernable until this government starts working for us, until the attacks on our bodies let up, until the right to an abortion is codified into law. And what do you want to bet? That if there is a summer of rage, so-called, that these people are not going to face any consequences. In fact, they'll probably get bailed out and charges dismissed. Because I'm willing to bet that they're only going to do this in deep, deep, deep blue cities and states. They don't dare do this in San Antonio, where they'll get arrested and prosecuted. No, they'll do it in Minneapolis. Or if they do get arrested for something, the Minnesota Bail Fund will come and bail them out with donations from the Vice President of the United States. And their charges will mysteriously be dropped. Several thousand abortion backers began amassing in Chicago Park on Saturday morning, including U.S. Rep. Sean Casten and his 15-year-old daughter Audrey. I bet you that's not a super spreader event either, is it? And you're going to this with your 15-year-old daughter, you sick, sick fuck. Casten, whose district includes Chicago's western suburbs, told Reuters that it was horrible that the conservative Supreme Court would consider taking away the right to an abortion and condemn women to this lesser status. Like that's ever going to happen in your state. I can't believe how many of these people represent the Constitution, represent their constituents, with an oath to follow the Constitution and don't know what's in the motherfucker. Let's look at some of the protests. Andy Ngo, pro-abortion protester with a male voice, shouts, "Keep your laws out of my pussy," at a demonstration in Phoenix.
Keep my laws out of your pussy.
How do you feel about vaccine man?
Laws out of my pussy. Keep your laws out of my pussy. Keep your laws out of my pussy.
It doesn't make sense. You're contradicting yourself.
They're baby haters. They probably I'm sorry. Keep my laws out of your pussy.
How do you feel about vaccine mandates?
Laws out of my pussy. Keep your laws out of my pussy. Keep your laws out of my pussy.
It doesn't make sense. You're contradicting.
Gonna go out on a limb and say that you don't possess the article you're trying to keep the laws out of. Gonna go out on a limb and say that one. More from Phoenix. Pro-abortion protesters scream and shout uncontrollably at the protest outside the Capitol in Phoenix. Of course that's who's there. Why would it be anybody else? Because it's one of Fuentes' people. Of course it is.
You guys want to sign up? Do you want to sign up? We're for women's rights. Would you like to sign up? Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade. Coat hanger Dodger. Coat hanger Dodger. That means your mom stuck a coat hanger up her hooey and tried to get rid of you, but she failed. Tried to get rid of you, but your mom stuck a coat hanger up her hooey and tried to get rid of you, but she failed.
Wow. I really need to start watching these videos before I watch them on Contemporary because, wow, I didn't want to be surprised by that. That might be one of the most disturbing things I've seen studying the news for this week, and I watched the live stream from Buffalo. Stupid celebrity news. We will not back down. Ariana Grande and Selena Gomez and more stars signed an ad claiming they're being robbed of our power over Roe leak. By the way, 2 more people who live in California, where this will never, ever, ever become an issue. Celebrities have sent a message in a full-page ad claiming that they're being robbed of our power over the leaked draft of the Supreme Court, indicating that Roe could likely be overturned, and declared they will not back down. Stars like Ariana Grande, Selena Gomez, Billie Eilish, Olivia Rodrigo, Shawn Mendes, and more than 100 other performers, musicians, supermodels, and influencers signed an advertisement taken out in the New York Times, a former newspaper, that read, "The Supreme Court is planning to overturn Roe v. Wade, taking away constitutional rights to abortion," reported the Today Show in a piece published on Friday. Our power to plan our futures and control our own bodies depends on our ability to access sexual and reproductive health care, including abortion. The ad continued, "We are artists, creators, storytellers. We're the new generation stepping into our power. Now we're being robbed of our power. We will not go back," the ad stated, "and we will not back down." The ad is part of a Planned Parenthood's larger Bands Off Our Body campaign. Oh, it's Planned Parenthood organized this, you said? The entire list of stars who signed on board can be seen below. Molly Jong Fast says, "A lot of celebrities on this list who tend to stay away from politics." Oh, bullshit. Alright. Let's see how many people on this list I recognize. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've seen the name, but I have no idea who she is. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That one actually surprised me a little bit. 17, 18, 18 out of 100, not bad. Considering I'm almost 40. Oh, 19. I didn't see that one before. 19 out of 40. And these are the celebrities that stay out of politics. Fucking bullshit. I was surprised to see Paramore on that list because they're considered to be a Christian rock band. I don't know who considers them that, but that's what it says in their bio. That's what they're considered to be. I'm a little surprised to see them there. On the Planned Parenthood website, there are details about the campaign with information about joining rallies planned for Saturday, May 14th, across the nation over the leaked draft. A page on the website under the headline Supreme Court Leak, Our Worst Fears Confirmed, reads in part, abortion is still legal, it's still your right, but the Supreme Court is prepared to end your constitutional right. Well, there's your problem there. A government that's big enough to give you your rights is big enough to take them away. By this summer, 26 states could move to ban abortion, affecting 36 million women, plus more people who can become pregnant. This is personal. Anyway, there's your list of celebrities to seriously consider whether or not you want to keep watching. So a little bit of both ends of this here. By the way, both ends, and I would say, are in the opposite extremes, and there aren't a lot of people in this country per capita that support either one of these ends. I think that the vast majority falls somewhere in the middle. From Axios, Nebraska governor says he would call special session to ban abortion if Roe is overturned. From Julia Shapiro. Republican Nebraska Governor Pete Ricketts on Sunday said that he would call a special legislative session to do more to protect preborn babies if Roe v. Wade is overturned. Nebraska is a pro-life state, Ricketts told CNN State of the Union on Sunday. I believe if life begins at conception, those are babies too. So if Roe, which was a horrible constitutional decision, gets overturned by the Supreme Court, which we're hopeful of here in Nebraska, we're going to take further steps to protect those preborn babies. Ricketts said that if Roe is overturned, he will work with our Speaker of the Legislature to work on a special session and do more to protect preborn babies. He added, we will have to wait and see what that decision is before we can take further steps, but it would certainly be my intention. Ricketts added that he'd push for measures that do not include exceptions for rape and incest. I'm sure he would. I'm sure he would, and I'm sure that he'll probably get shot down for that shit. Let's see. Let's look at the map here. Let's go. No, not that map. Let's go back here. Nebraska. There are actually quite a bit, according to this. A lot of Planned Parenthoods in Nebraska. I was a little surprised by that. Omaha area, maybe not so much, but down here and up here, yeah, I'm actually a little surprised by that. And on the other end, from our friends in New York, Eric Adams blasts pro-life radical extremists, says women have the right to abortions up until the day of birth. Yeah, that's that conservative pro-police mayor that so many people touted. And he's still better than de Blasio. Go figure. From Andrew Mark Miller. Eric Adams slammed the pro-life movement as radical on Saturday and pledged that he would fight to ensure there are no limitations on abortion. Abortion is healthcare. It's that simple. And New York City won't let a group of radical extremists take away healthcare or any human right without a fight. Well, healthcare isn't a human right because it can be granted by the government, which means it can be taken away by the government. Adams tweeted Saturday using the hashtag #BansOffOurBodies. There's the tweet, abortion is healthcare. It's that simple, and New York City won't let a group of radical extremists take away healthcare or any human right first without a fight. Adams attended pro-choice protests in New York City on Saturday and said that he doesn't believe there should be any limitations on abortions. No, I do not, Adams said when asked at the Bands Off Our Bodies demonstration in New York City whether there should be any limitations on abortion. I think women should have the right to choose their bodies, Adams said when pressed about abortions up until the day of birth. Men should not have that right to choose how women should treat their body. I know Tim got in some hot water for suggesting that if, there's an entrapment pregnancy where a woman's trying to get a rich father to pay child support for the rest of his life, that the man should be able to opt out of that too. He got in some real hot water with that. I'm a little bit on the fence about the way that he proposed it. I'm not completely against the idea that a man should have the option to be in his child's life if his mother has the option to end the pregnancy. But the way that Tim presented it seemed a little bit extreme. But as far as Adams go, I mean, you knew who he was when you started. We all knew who Adams was, who Eric Adams was. This shouldn't be any sort of surprise to anybody. What else do we have? This funny ass story. So this whole Ultra MAGA thing, I guess they went through and they did that as a focus group tested thing. This is not grassroots. From Insider, Biden used the term Ultra MAGA after 6 months of research. Now Republicans have put it on t-shirts. From Nicole Gaudiano. In fact, some other people, even people who aren't really on the MAGA camp, have put it onto their Twitter profiles. You know, some of these people are ultra-centrists. President Biden's use of the term Ultra MAGA reportedly followed 6 months of research into the best ways to target Republicans. What do we know about government programs? What do we know about programs that are funded by either a major political party or government? They typically come on a no-bid contract, which means the firm that's conducting the research can call for whatever price that they want. How much do you think this cost them to fuck up this hard? How much do you think that it cost them to fuck up this hard? The House Republicans campaign arm is offering Ultra MAGA shirts with former President Trump's likeness and a USA flag. MAGA, which stands for Make America Great Again, was Trump's 2016 campaign slogan. House GOP is giving away 1,000 Ultra MAGA shirts. Offer ends at midnight or when we run out, the offer says. This follows an Ultra MAGA t-shirt offered from the former President Donald Trump's Save America PAC in exchange for a $45 contribution or more. These shirts are the perfect way to show your unwavering support for President Trump and prove to the left that our monument is stronger than ever before, the fundraising email says. Another fundraising email from the PAC offers an Ultra MAGA t-shirt with a cartoon picture of Trump in a Superman costume with a T on his chest. Also for a $45 contribution or more. The research project that led to the term Ultra MAGA was led by Biden advisor Anita Dunn and the liberal group the Center for American Progress Action Fund, the Washington Post reported. So again, I recognize that name, the Center for American Progress, which is a no-bid contract for the Democrat Party. How much do you think that this cost them to fuck up this hard? From the USA Today. Why Biden is blasting the Ultra MAGA agenda, not Donald Trump in his midterm push. Well, it's simple. I don't even have to go into this to tell you why. It's because Donald Trump is not on the ballot. Looking to avert a midterm disaster that would all but end his domestic agenda, President Biden has landed on a message aimed squarely at the political movement of his predecessor. But he's not mentioning Trump. Inside the White House, he's working aggressively to paint Republicans and their policies as ultra MAGA in a push to overcome the president's brutal approval ratings and the voters' frustration with high inflation and help Dems maintain control of Congress. It's important that we go for someone besides Trump because Trump's not on the ballot. Oh, that's not Biden, that's Linda Lake. A pollster for Biden's 2020 presidential campaign pollster who conducts focus groups within midterm voters. Well, we see how well your focus groups turned out. We're trying to beat Republicans in 2022 in state legislatures, secretaries of state races, governors' races, and congressional races. Biden's dilemma on inflation, Rather than calling out Trump by name, Biden is targeting the MAGA takeover from the Republican Party, casting a range of issues. The fight with Disney World over LGBTQIRAA++ GTM GLTIX7BR2 related issues, a GOP income tax proposal, which is not a GOP income tax proposal, it is a Rick Scott tax proposal, and a recent Supreme Court draft opinion overturning abortion rights as the product of an increasingly extreme party. Biden introduced the Ultra MAGA label last week, making it a staple in his public remarks since. Other Democrats, including Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, have picked it up as well. So have former President Trump's t-shirt companies. Behind the scenes, the term Ultra MAGA was the subject of a month's of polling from Democrat allies, focus groups, and recent meetings among White House officials to fine-tune a strategy to define the opposition. The conclusion, voters respond more negatively to MAGA than Trump. No, they do not. The great MAGA king, Biden said in a speech on Wednesday in Chicago, referring to the former president. How much? I need to see the bill at this point. How much did it cost you to fuck up this badly? I need to know that the answer to that question. I need to know. Tell me. Tell me, please. From the Blaze. By the way, we're not going to go too much past 10 because I'm not going to take the spotlight away from my good friend Stephen Ignoramus. So do keep that in mind. If we don't get to the rest of it, we're clearing the board and we're starting fresh tomorrow. Audio, Lindsey Graham calls Biden the best person to have as president following the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest. From Chris Pandolfo. In a newly released audio, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham said that President Biden was the best person to have leading the nation after the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol. On CNN Tuesday, New York Times reporters Alexander Burns and Jonathan Martin shared an audio of the interview with Graham from January 6 of 2021 after rioters breached the Capitol in an attempt to interrupt the certification of the 2020 presidential election results, which declared Biden the winner. The interview was taken for Burns and Martin's new book, This Will Not Pass, Trump and Biden and the Battle for America's Future. They don't have it either, by the way. We've actually come out of this stronger, sugar. Moments like this reset. People will calm down. People say, I don't want to be associated with that. Graham is heard in the audio clip. This is a group within a group. What this does, there will be a rallying effect for a while, the country says. We're better than this. When Martin asked if the newly elected Biden would help unite the country, Graham instantly agreed, telling him that Biden was perhaps the best person to have in the White House. Biden will help that, right? Martin asked. Today, totally. He'll be maybe the best person to have, right, sugar? I mean, how mad can you get at Joe Biden? Let's see, what was the gas price around Madison again? Oh yeah, $4.08. As it turned out, Lindsey Graham himself would appear very mad at Joe Biden 1 year later. So, once again, and it says on the anniversary, Graham blasted both Biden and Vice President Harris for what he called a brazen politicization of January 6th. In a speech that day, Biden accused the former president of instigating an armed insurrection at the Capitol to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. Lindsey Graham is going to go follow whoever is going to give him the most power. Always has, always will. Lindsey Graham is not to be trusted. But when he does something right, we give him a little pat on the back and say, okay, sugar, that was a good job. But Lindsey Graham is not your friend and is not your ally. Plain and simple. From CNN, GOP eyes Pelosi as party weighs payback for January 6 subpoenas. From Manu Raju and Melanie Zanona. House Republicans, furious that 5 of their own have been subpoenaed by the January 6 Select Committee, are discussing their own plans to retaliate if they win back the majority, issuing subpoenas to Speaker Pelosi and other top Democrats. Just let it go at some point. Stop investigating each other and start repealing laws, although while you're investigating each other, you're not making new laws, so I will give you that. Several rank-and-file Republicans, likely committee chairmen and members of the party leadership, told CNN on Friday that the January 6 panel subpoenas to Kevin McCarthy and 4 of the Republicans create a new standard they may ultimately choose to replicate in a potential GOP majority next Congress. At the top of the list, Pelosi, whom Republicans say they plan to target over communications regarding security matters in the run-up, and as the riot was unfolding in the Capitol. I'm going to tell you the truth. Yes, I do, said Buddy Carter, a Georgia Republican, when asked if he believes Republicans should issue a subpoena to Pelosi. This is setting the precedent, and we're just not going to lie down and let this happen. There are serious questions about her role in January 6 and exactly what she did and why she didn't do it. And we need to get to the bottom of that. This whole article here is a fear piece meant to go drive people out to the polls that Manu Raju and Melanie Zanona have told are evil insurrectionists. And we have to offset their votes, otherwise if they take back the House, they'll never be held to account. Let's see, what else do we want to get to? Let's do this one. And I think we'll call it at that. Because, again, don't want to take all the spotlight away from one Stephen R. Ignoramus. From the Hill, Fauci says he would not serve under Trump again. from Brad Dress. White House Chief Medical Advisor Anthony Fauci, St. Anthony of Fauci, the patron saint of medicine, on Sunday said if former President Trump wins the presidency again in 2024, St. Anthony will not return to serve Trump under the White House. Fauci, the chief medical advisor to President Biden, gave CNN's Jim Cocksucker a plain no when he asked if he would work with the 45th president again. If you look at the history of what the response was during the admin, I think, at best, you could say it wasn't optimal, Fauci said. History will speak for itself about that. Trump has strongly suggested his intent to run in 24, but has not formally announced a presidential bid. Fauci, who also heads the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, publicly crossed Trump over various health policies and misinformation during the initial months of the pandemic. Early on, Fauci pressed for masks and social distancing. No, early on, Fauci pressed, don't go out and get your mask because the healthcare professionals need that. We don't want you to have it, we just want the healthcare professionals to have it. Frequently warning of the perils of the pandemic, while Trump downplayed the severity of the novel coronavirus as the pandemic wore on, Fauci earned the scorn of conservatives who wanted to end public health measures to curb the spread of the pinko fucking pox. If you want, and I am probably not going to vote for Trump a third time, but just this right here, the fact that Fauci might not be in the government anymore, that might be enough to sway my opinion. That might be enough to go get me, hey, you know what? What's the worst that could happen? If we could get rid of that little rat-looking bastard, that might be enough for me to say, what do we got to lose? Alright, it is after 10. Daily Ignoramus is on, so let's finish out here. And the last thing that we do on Monday is always reading from the rules of acquisition. Now, for those of you who know, I am an ultra-capitalist. So says my 8-axis test. Which means that I fit right on board with the Ferengi of Star Trek, who, well, let's just say that the anti-Semitic Roddenberry probably didn't have the best of intentions in mind when he designed these characters, but a part of the Ferengi religion is the fact that they do conduct commerce throughout the galaxy, and they have a specific set of rules as to how to conduct commerce throughout the galaxy, which are written in a series of commandments they call the Rules of Acquisition. And every Monday we go through and we read one of these Rules of Acquisition, analyze how it worked in canon, or in beta canon, if it's the case, and then look at how we can approach this in our real everyday lives. What did we do last week? We did the 75th. The 75th rule of acquisition last week, home is where the heart is, but the stars are made of latinum. The strong encouragement to go out and strike your fortune elsewhere in the country if you have a specific good or service that you can use, or elsewhere in the world that you know that a market doesn't have. We will move on this week to the 76th rule of acquisition. Every once in a while, declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies. From the DS9 episode, The Homecoming. Now, when you're looking at something like this and looking at the situation to where the Homecoming was going on with Quark going back to his home planet, you're just about on the edge of the Dominion War, but you're also dealing with a person who's been on the backside of several arms deals, and in fact a planet who is distributing arms throughout the galaxy, oftentimes taking both sides to everything, rarely in conflict of their own, but also still internally conflicted with each other as they study. And every once in a while, as they say, declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies. So if you've got somebody that you don't particularly care for, that you're at odds with often, that gives you problems, etc., You can always be predictable and try to downplay that person. Try to say the worst, the meanest, the nastiest things about that person. You can do that forever and ever and ever. And never ever stop. But every once in a while, if you just come out and reach out your hand, it confuses them. And one thing when you're in any sort of financial situation is you always want to have the upper hand. And part of the upper hand when you're in a financial situation is to not be predictable. Because if you are predictable, if your adversary in a financial situation, in a tactical situation, otherwise, knows what you're going to do next and next and next and next, they can further predict and tailor their strategy to counter yours. But if you take some time every once in a while and confuse them, declare peace, confuse the hell out of them, they don't know what to do. They don't know if you're going to back them up on the next thing. They don't know if you're going to be adverse to them at the next thing. They might even try to go further and further into their corner and expose their own agenda to their customers or their constituents or the people that they're trying to get support from otherwise. And reveal a more nefarious intent to what they're doing. And these are all good things. These are all good things to keep yourselves up out there. So yeah, you can have enemies out there. I know a lot of us do. But every once in a while, make peace with them. It confuses them. And then you can go shake up your strategy and really confuse the hell out of them. So that is what we see out of that. Take some time, declare peace, confuse the hell out of everybody. And with that, we're going to head out of here. I'll decide what I'm going to do with the remainder of these articles here at the onset of the show while I'm listening to Daily Ignoramus. But, you know, I want to start off with, I want to do the, what the hell is it? I can't even think of the name of my own website right now. I want to do Turn Some Pages so bad right now. And I really do want Steven to work with me when I'm doing that, so I want him to have his own spotlight as well. We do have a very, very big cross-platform audience as well. We cross a lot of people, so he's on. It's time for the Daily Ignoramus. Let's go check him out. Let's go over there, and we'll even raid over there as well. Where's my outro music? There it is. So thanks everybody who came by and chatted, hung out with us in the live stream for today. You got some new people in here. I saw some... We got up to, I think, 13, I think was the highest number today. Our goal this week and next week, we're going to see if we can't get up to 20 current viewers on a morning show. Break even more people out of listening to the daily mainstream drivel that they're getting out of their AM radio. So come back and join me here tomorrow for more contemporary. See if we can't get it up to 20. Tell a couple friends. Get some more people in here. Say, hey, you know that news program you're listening to on the AM? Try this instead and see what happens when somebody can come and say the naughty words as well as looking at this. And somebody who hates both sides equally. We'll see what happens with that. But, you know, word of mouth is the best way we're going to grow around here. Otherwise, we're going to head out of here. We're going to go see the Daily Ignoramus. So stick around if you're over on Twitch. We will go rating from there. Come back here later on tonight, 5:30 Central Time, for KTZed Redemption, where we've got a very packed show. We'll be talking about the Ultra Mega Agenda, Biden's speech, the economy that's going and that he's trying to cover up for. We'll be talking about abortion. We'll be talking about these shootings. We'll be talking about a host of other things. Hope to see you there. It's going to be a great time. Looking forward to seeing you guys, and looking forward to seeing you here tomorrow morning as well. Stick around, and until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care. Have a good morning.